We didn't get to the evidence of the good moral character stuff.
Yeah. Just
I think on my copy, we might have been on 49, which is one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got it.
122. Oh, there's David. Are we in the thing now?
Yep, we're live.
Hey everyone.
Hey, David.
Go on.
Jason.
So let's see. I'm trying to figure out the citation for where we are.
The invite said 20.7, but I don't know if that's accurate.
I don't think we're there. I think that was aspirational.
Oh, so we're behind.
Actually, we got to premise. So we are on page 51, which is technically section. Oh God, I'm scrolling pretty high up. All right, how about this? The easier way to say where we are is to go down a chunk. So 120.3 license specific tiers and options. We are like 1.5 pages above that, where it says it's part 4 of something that says premise.
Gotcha. Yep.
Cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
premises.
We're in 120.2 something, because you have to scroll really far up, and the copy of the PDF that I have in New York State fashion has no outline to it, no indentation, so it's really hard to tell where you are at any given time. At least.
What's up, buds?
Hey,
Living the dream, you know.
You know, people always say that when they're not.
this is incredible. I scrolled like 2 pages away and I already got lost again. Does anybody have the page number?
Depends on what copy you're looking at, but it might be 52.
Okay, I'll be close.
Zach is gonna share his screen and it won't really matter.
Oh, okay.
I just like having my own copy. Another screen.
Did I miss something, Jason? My headphones aren't working.
You're gonna end up sharing your screen, so it really doesn't matter because
Yep.
that'll be our reference.
Awesome.
And I'm going to make the chat available to everybody.
There we go.
Okay, cool. Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
All right, great. Let's send it. Greetings and welcome, everyone. This is part 3 of the adult use regulations read through. This is being presented to you by the Cannabis Association of New York, CANY, and the Rochester Public Library. It's our belief that education and access to information is really the foundation for an equitable and diverse industry. So we are out here reading through the regs to help open people's perspective, provide professional insight, legal insight, but not necessarily as your lawyer, but just offering perspective that should help make these regs more comprehensible. Today, we're joined by a few friends who will be our hosts, and we'll be reading through the regs. If you have the proposed regulations open, we'll be on page 51, and we'll continue to update throughout this live stream as to what page we'll be on. I'll be sharing my screen, my PDF that we'll be reading through. Anyone who's on this call, please feel free to communicate in the chat. I've actually turned the chat on in advance, so open communication there, ask questions. There are no wrong questions here. We're really here to create perspective, and everyone brings something different who's on this panel today. And also you can drop questions in the Q&A. So folks who are watching this recording, we hope this is of value. And again, this is brought to you by CANY and the Rochester Public Library. So I'll pass this over to my colleague and co-host, Jason Klimek. Let him introduce himself, and then we'll pass it around and before diving in. You're on mute, Jason.
Thanks. There we go. Thank you. So thanks, Zach. I'm Jason Klimek. I am the leader of the cannabis team at Barclay Damon and the chair of the policy committee for CANY, and yeah, keep it short and sweet. And I'll pass it over to Elise to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Elise Bergio. I am general counselor for 2 women-owned businesses here in New York State. I'm also on the CANY Policy Committee and executive leadership for New York State Bar Association.
And David, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name's David Pejovich. I am an attorney in the space. I help CANY craft policy around municipal affairs and retail. I'm also counsel to 2 cannabis businesses within the space, one being a tech platform, the other being a dispensary. And I also have a private practice in the space.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
And my name is Zach Sarkis. I'm the chair of the education committee. I also sit on the policy committee. Small business owner, been a cultivator in New York State since 2018 and some time in other places beforehand. But bringing that perspective of cultivation, small business brand to the table. So got good diverse perspective out here. I see a bunch of familiar names and not faces, but folk we're recognizing repeat attenders. We appreciate everyone being here. And again, please do not hesitate to engage, because that's what keeps this exciting for everyone. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here, and then we'll dive in. Jason, I'm gonna let you pick up on premise, which was pertaining to the. We'll bump back up to where we're coming from here. It was essentially beginning to look at the background checks, et cetera.
It's the application for the adult use cannabis license. So this is, one of the other things that needs to be provided to OCM.
Yeah, great. So we began to discuss like what is premise on our last call, and we can keep on moving forward from there.
All right. So premises. Upon receiving provisional license approval, the applicant may be required to provide additional information regarding its premises, including but not limited to information identifying any person that receives payment for rent under a lease or rental agreement relating to the applicant or the premises to be licensed. Information identifying the premises to be licensed, which may include but is not limited to the street name and number, photographs, GPS coordinates, architectural drawings, or other items related to the appearance of the interior or exterior of the such premises, and the floor plans of the interior of any structures being utilized on the premises. The nature of the applicant's interest in the premises, whether leased or owned, and the name of any other person interested as a partner, joint venture, investor or lender, mortgage holder or mortgage guarantor, or by any other means with the applicant in the premises. A statement that the location and the layout of the premises to be licensed does not violate any requirement of the cannabis law and this chapter relating to the location and layout of the licensed premises. A statement from the applicant that they have complied with any requirements, including notification requirements under the cannabis law relating to the municipality in which the applicant intends to locate the licensed premises where applicable. A copy of the certificate of occupancy or its equivalent for the licensed premises. Copies of all applicable executed and proposed deeds, leases, rental agreements, or executed option contracts related to the licensed premises provided before the applicant begins operations. The document shall demonstrate the applicant possesses or has the right to use sufficient land, buildings, and other premises to, as specified in the application, to properly carry on the activities for which the licensure is sought. Documentation acceptable to the office that the applicant will be able to obtain insurance sufficient to indemnify and hold harmless the state and its officers and employees. Information relating to the applicant's eligibility and the criteria used in evaluation of the applicants, and any other information as determined by the office. Social and economic equity. An applicant seeking to qualify as a social and economic equity applicant shall provide information proving their qualification as described in Part 121.
I guess we could have finished that section on the last call.
I probably get it.
But now we're here, what everyone's been waiting for.
All right. So we're going to talk about the license specific tiers and options. So this is going to break down all the different licenses and kind of some of their limitations. So there's section 120.3A, nursery license. All nursery applicants shall obtain a nursery grower's certificate of registration from the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets, Division of Plant Industry, prior to submitting their application to the office. That's actually not bad. The Department of Ag, the person who deals with nursery license, is like one of the nicest people in the world. Like, I've dealt with her several times. She's super nice.
Yeah. But that's also a point being too. It's interesting where how like ag and markets wanted out in general from all things cannabis, but here I do think this shows a certain like certification or legitimacy and continuation, that being of like keeping all nurseries registered for Department of Ag and Markets. So it's an interesting thread there.
Yeah, ag and markets couldn't get rid of cannabis. I mean, they still deal with the hemp growers licenses, and yeah, they still got stuck with it a little bit. An applicant for a nursery license shall indicate the type of nursery license it seeks to operate based on the size of the cultivation area and the type of cultivation is set forth below. Nursery outdoor, for outdoor cultivation, a maximum of 100,000 square feet. Nursery mixed light, for mixed light type cultivation, a maximum of 10,000 square feet, or nursery indoor, for indoor cultivation, a maximum area of 10,000 square feet.
It's funny how nursery mixed light and indoor have the same amount.
It's also funny how like, as I would read this, an outdoor couldn't buy nursery stock from an indoor cultivator, for example. And I think that that's honestly limiting. I think that I understand an outdoor nursery in most cases would never sell to an indoor grower, but allowing the inverse opportunity for sales, I think is kind of limiting, honestly.
But if I recall, and I think we get into this later, and I want to say it's like 123 or something. Yeah, I think it's 123. I think you can have unlimited, you can be an unlimited TPI, an unlimited number of nursery licenses.
Right.
So,
and you can span your canopy over like in unlimited like space, meaning like, all right, you have 100,000, you could have 10,000 square foot outdoor facilities. But again, I do think that it's risky to say that a mixed or an indoor couldn't sell clones to an outdoor, for example, or seeds to an outdoor. So I think that's just unnecessary, where again, the biggest issue would be an outdoor selling to an indoor for contamination. And most people would never make that choice. But even still, on a crunch, you could buy outdoor plants and sterilize them, for lack of a better expression, and bring them into at least mixed, if not indoor. So it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Cultivator license. An applicant for a cultivator license shall indicate the license tier in which it seeks to operate based on the size of the cultivation canopy and the type of cultivation as set forth below. There are 4 different types for cultivation: outdoor, mixed light, combination of outdoor and mixed light, or indoor. A cultivator may only have one cultivation license, which will authorize the cultivator to cultivate within a specified type and canopy tier as approved on the cultivator's application.
So what do y'all think about the fact that you can have a combo of mixed and outdoor, but you can't have a combo with indoor or anything?
I mean, yeah, I agree. Like, why not allow the indoor people to offset a little bit with some mixed light or outdoor or something like that? Like, I don't really.
Or just like from the perspective of a greenhouse, a lot of greenhouse owners would rather have like a little beta testing of indoor in there.
Or a 2,000 square foot. It's like, you can produce a lot of cannabis in 1,000 square feet, with the right production cycle. So it's like the ability for indoor and outdoor to have their genetic stock, but also keeping a perpetual, like staying present and relevant in a place where we have relatively short seasons and limitations. Like I think I don't see any reason not to allow. There's no justification that would say we shouldn't allow both a mixed light where it's outdoor and indoor, for example, or like, I'm using the wrong terminology, a mixed license type that would allow for indoor and outdoor.
I agree with that.
See, here we go, folks. We're finding questions. So I didn't say this. If you've been following along with us, we're constantly reminding, like, this read through is, well, we're in this open comment period for these regs. So these are proposed regulations. They're not set in stone. Every single comment, every unique comment that's contributed or sent into the Office of Cannabis Management needs at least some form of response. Now, it could be a generalized response, but every unique question deems a response here. So if there's something that doesn't work for you, or you have an alternative proposal, there is opportunity to shape this language with the right questions and the right proposals. So you'll see me marking little sticky notes where I'm saying, like, okay, on that, I definitely need to remember to send a comment about allowing for indoor and outdoor overlap. So just food for thought there. Make sure you're taking notes with that lens.
All right, so the tier 1 cultivation license, not exceeding 5,000 square feet. Tier 2, greater than 5,000 square feet, not exceeding 12,500 square feet. Tier 3, greater than 12,500, not exceeding 25,000. Tier 4, greater than 25,000, not exceeding 50,000. Or tier 5, greater than 50,000 square feet, but not exceeding 100,000 square feet. And I want to just mention something here, that they capped it. So there are some states that just that do tiers, but there might be like an unlimited tier where it's just over X. Here, OCM said 100,000 square feet is the highest amount, and you can't be TPIs in multiple cultivator licenses. So there is essentially like the biggest cultivation in New York that a company can do is 100,000 square feet. They can't stack licenses. They can't, have interests in multiple things. So New York is trying, granted 100,000 square feet is still very large, but New York is trying to kind of clamp it down so that you don't have, these million square foot grows that can just try to take over the entire market.
Now, what do you think about, this is a random side note, but the way this reads, like tier 1, should it say tier 1 outdoor? I personally think this should say tier 1 outdoor, because every other tier, like there's tier 1 mixed or combined, there's tier 1, indoor, etc. And I don't know why, but it feels like subtly misleading just to say tier 1.
Well, no, this is for indoor, mixed light, or outdoors. So these tiers cover those 3 categories.
So no matter what it is, they're all based in that structure. Oh, I thought, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Even for indoor?
Yeah. I mean, it's cultivate indoor, mixed light, or outdoors, and those are the tiers. Then you get into the combination, and then you get into micro business. I think that covers the range of.
Well, it goes combination, and then it goes, oh, interesting. Yeah, so this zone is interesting because then it's like when we go into the square footage, et cetera, and the fees, it's really explicit about there's the outdoor square footage, the mixed, like all of the different layers, where I think it feels like there's almost a section missing here. If we compare this, what's laid out here versus the fee section, but that's a conversation for another time.
We'll pick it up when we get there. It's the next section. All right. A cultivator is authorized to cultivate outdoor with mixed light in one of the following canopy tiers. Tier 1 combination cultivator, not exceeding 5,000 square feet of outdoor and 2,500 square feet of mixed light. Tier 2, greater than 5,000 but not exceeding 12,500 of outdoor, and greater than 2,500 but not exceeding 6,250 of mixed light. Tier 3, greater than 12,500 square feet but not exceeding 25,000 outdoor, and greater than 6,250 but not exceeding 12,500 for mixed light. Tier 4 combination cultivator, greater than 25,000 but not exceeding 50,000 of outdoor, and greater than 10,000 square feet but not exceeding 15,000 square feet of mixed light. And finally, tier 5, greater than 50,000 square feet outdoors, not exceeding 100,000 square feet, and greater than 15,000 square feet, but not exceeding 30,000 square feet of mixed light. So, I mean, that would be a tier 5 combination cultivator would be a pretty large license. I mean, you could do
huge.
130,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's almost like we don't see the cutbacks on this that allows for the full. And my next question would be like, how, if we use this as a template, how do we propose the outdoor and indoor combination or mixed light? It's like, you know, there isn't even like on that last one, how much of a reduction is there on the outdoor? It seems to not be any. So then like, okay, then what would be the scaled indoor? Would the scaled indoor be 10 to 20,000 or would it be that same 15 to 30,000? Again, that might be like a little work group, but I do think if we agree that that's missing here, then using this as a frame of reference, we could probably build upon it and change indoor versus mixed from this.
I agree. It's conversation to have.
And something just to keep in mind is under tier 4, there is an overlap on the square footage minimum with tier 3. It's a 10,000 square foot, not exceeding 15, whereas tier 3 has, you know, it goes between 6,000 and 12,000. So that's a potential typo overlap, but just something to keep in mind that it's not laddered properly, at least in the there.
Precisely. So I think we may need something built out to show the actual laddering. I haven't seen any like diagrams of the laddering and then be able to use that as a correction point and kind of building off. And even just looking, okay, the ladder for it's 10,000 to 15,000. Well, whatever that number is, one of them may be wrong, but the jump then for 15,000 to 30,000 is a 2x. So it almost like it doesn't feel appropriate to say, okay.
It's a 2x in tier 3 as well.
Oh, that's very true. And it's more than
yeah, so there's something wrong in the
so
tier
really
4
is the one that's kind of wrong. What's 2? What's tier 2 go up a little bit?
Tier 2 is 2,500 to 6,250. So yeah, tier 4 just seems to be the one that A, doesn't ladder properly and B, doesn't follow the same growth. It seems like almost like actually the most inconvenient of all the licensing classes.
Yeah. All right. Well, obviously there's some work to be done here. Appreciate that, David.
Of course.
Continuing on. A cultivator.
What do you think about this as you read it, Jason? Do you think that cultivators are going to be able to expand past 100,000 square feet or past the allotment for outdoor?
I don't think so. I mean, because it caps it and you can't be a TPI in multiple licenses. So I think once you hit that cap, that's it. Unless, I mean, yeah, the highest you could do would be the combination cultivator and do 130,000 square feet total.
Yeah, I don't see them expanding past their largest thresholds either, only because you have to show, and we'll see this throughout, a minimum amount of sales to maintain in your tier growth. So I don't know, very interesting. Sorry, keep going.
Let's see. Okay, a cultivator shall not expand or reduce its cultivation canopy outside the bounds of its licensed cultivation tier unless it is applied to the office and received written approval from the office. In determining whether to approve a cultivator to change its canopy tier, the following factors may be considered, including but not limited to the licensee's cultivation history, including whether the licensee sold more than 85% of its cannabis of the cannabis it harvested in the preceding 6 months. Whether the licensee's plants or inventory suffered a catastrophic event during the license period, cannabis transfers and sales history, existing inventory and licensee's inventory history, adherence to any plan required in this chapter, including but not limited to the licensee's operating plan, environmental plan, and community impact plan, and any other factors determined by the board. So if you want to increase, you got to show them that you're actually selling through your product, and 85% is a pretty high number. I mean, you basically have to be almost maxing out your license for them to.
Which is also interesting too, you know, thinking about for outdoor production and different sales models, like traditionally, and this is probably becoming less and less common, like especially for outdoor cultivation on the West Coast, there is a big production boom, you know, around harvest in the fall. And in general, price point bottoms out, and a lot of folks choose to hold their product for months until the value of the product goes up. So like it almost is like prohibitive for allowing for that. And that being said, eventually the flood will be 365 24/7, where like the price may never go down again. So it's kind of a like in let's just say a mature market, that 85% I think shows actual flow. But in the beginning, in the first couple of years, especially with this kind of imbalance in harvests and these micro floods, the value, like people will hold out to get a higher value later on. Now 6 months is a long time, but just it's an interesting thing to note.
Well, and then
Well, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
I was going to just say this, the next section hits you on the other side. So if you want to go up a tier, you got to sell through 85. But this 6, at the time of the license renewal, cultivators shall provide inventory and production records requested by the office during the 6 months prior to the application for renewal. As part of the license renewal process, the board may reduce a cultivator's maximum cultivation canopy to a lower tier if the cultivator sold less than 50% of what it harvested in the previous 6 months.
I think this is just way too much micromanaging on the board's part. I mean, to have a hand in this, I mean, realistically, cultivators, if you aren't selling this, are in a problem anyway, right? So at least, and I'm not going to use Oregon as too much of an example because they did a lot of stuff wrong, but they basically were the picture of capitalists in its entirety. I mean, in 1 year, you would see a company go bankrupt, merge, be acquired, either survive or what have you. In this situation, you're almost not really giving that leeway to the operator to figure it out. It's like, oh, you didn't do this? Okay, you're going to get bumped down and we're going to control the supply again. And obviously Oregon had an oversupply at some points, but you saw a decrease in cultivators, people who and consolidation. So I don't know. I just think that the government having a hand in people's business licenses is wrong, but
valid. We're all entitled to our opinions here at the read through. Thank you very much. It's definitely, we see that again and again where it seems to be too nitpicky and cumbersome, and then even cumbersome for the government as well as cumbersome for the business. So again, if that's one of those kind of underlying edges for an individual, like those comments are important, and it may require OCM justifying why. It doesn't mean that they're wrong and we're right, but it's just like, what's the justification to this? Because then we can actually make sure that that's something of value to the community.
If I had to guess what their justification is, it's just controlling the total amount of cannabis to try to hit that equilibrium point of supply and demand. But it's hard because we have so many factors, is there going to be an oversupply because it's more expensive than the illicit market? And therefore, like, are OCM going to come out of the gate and say, well, you guys didn't sell through it, but, maybe it was because of the taxes, the whatever, the business expenses. And so, it's going to be really hard. Clearly, they give themselves discretion. They say they may, not they will, reduce your canopy size. But I think the rationale they would say would be, we want to make sure that there's not an oversupply because we don't want to become Oregon.
Yep.
But, whether that's the right answer or not, ultimately time will tell.
Valid.
Okay. Micro business licenses. There's a lot of interest in this license. It's an interesting license. So let's dive in. So, micro business license. An applicant for a micro business license shall indicate on the application for licensure the activities in which the applicant intends to engage. The micro business shall indicate the license tier in which it seeks to operate based on the size of the cultivation canopy and the type of cultivation as set forth below. Indoor canopy not to exceed 3,500 square feet, mixed light canopy not to exceed 5,000 square feet, or outdoor canopy not to exceed 10,000 square feet. In determining whether to approve a micro business license to transition to a cultivator license, the board may consider the factors set forth in section 120.3B5 of this title. Let's see. Now moving on to the process.
Well, this is another interesting note. Like, again, as I'm reading this, there isn't an opportunity. A micro business can only pigeonhole themselves into indoor, mixed, or outdoor. It's one or the other. And I personally think that's just like not that's not actually what we want. I do think allowing, especially a small business, to have a diversified product stream is super, super important to differentiate. And limiting someone to just outdoor production is not likely to maintain products on shelves year round, for example, or even just like product, whether it's their own retail, et cetera. So I think providing it that it's just one or the other is just limiting personally.
Agreed.
But then I guess the question is, if that's my belief, then what's my proposal? And we'd have to create some kind of tiered structure where it's like, okay, if you're going to do some kind of mix, it's, you know, it definitely complicates things, but I'd be curious how to begin to build that out. And can we use other frameworks of these other tiered for cultivation licenses to determine what actually makes most sense?
An applicant for processing license shall indicate on the application for licensure the processing activities in which the applicant intends to engage, including extraction, blending and infusing, packaging and labeling, and branding, including for the exclusive performance of white labeling agreements. Cooperative license. An applicant seeking to qualify for a cooperative license shall be formed as a cannabis cooperative under one of the following: the Cooperative Corporations Law, or approval from the office based on one of the following two methods: certification recommendation from a national and well-established work cooperative trade association, or by a local chapter of a national and well-established worker cooperative trade association, or an opinion rendered by an independent CPA or other similarly credentialed professional that the applicant would meet the criteria to qualify under subchapter T as per the U.S. Internal Revenue Service. At minimum, meet the business authorizations and prohibitions set out in 123.13 of this title, and indicate on the application for licensure the number of members in the cooperative, facility type, the size of the cultivation canopy, and the type of cultivation as set forth below. So this chart is interesting too, is that, you know, it is actually, so when I said before that the highest you could do was 130, technically, if you had a 15 or more member of a cooperative, you could actually do 150,000 square feet outdoors. That would actually, I guess, be the technically highest. But then they cap it at 15, so you couldn't have a cooperative with 100 people in it and cultivate 1 million square feet or something.
So it's a 15-person max. Wait, is it because there's 15 up into 15, and then there's greater than 15?
And it's still 150.
Oh yeah, it's great. So yeah, you follow.
Yeah.
Cool. So you could have 100-person membership, but it may be you know, everyone's doing 1,500 square foot.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
I wonder if it's worth like looking at these, like, you know, it is interesting, like a 5-person member. Now, are you able to get all of these things? Like every row, if you have five members, you're able to do 25,000 square foot of indoor, and is it an and or like do you qualify for everything in that? And I'd imagine if you choose one, but like, you know, again, looking at a hybrid model, like how do you then break it down where it's like, okay, if you have one indoor grower, one mixed light, one combo, one outdoor.
I think it follows the same idea. It's indoor, mixed light, combination mixed light and outdoor, and it's pick one. So, I mean, that might be a comment is, you know, can you have multiple people in the cooperative? But I think they're looking at it as a cooperative license is effectively no different than a cultivation license. You're picking one type, and that's what you're stuck with until you transition to a different type.
Interesting. All right.
At the time of license renewal, the cooperative shall provide records requested by the office during the 6 months prior to the application for renewal. The board may reduce the cooperative's maximum cultivation canopy to a lower tier if the cooperative sold less than 50% of what is harvested in the previous 6 months. The applicant shall indicate the types of processing activities that will be performed pursuant to subdivision D of this section. Okay, on to fees. Who wants to take on the fees section? Or I can continue reading on here.
I'm happy to send it into fees. I'll go for as long as I'm able to here. So 120.4 fees. So application fees. All application fees shall be accompanied by a non-refundable application fee of $1,000 unless otherwise set forth in the section. Applications for an ROD or ROND license shall be accompanied by a non-refundable application fee of $10,000. So license fees. Prior to final issuance of a license, an applicant shall pay a license fee for any of the specific license type as follows. An adult use nursery license, maximum of 10,000 square foot for outdoor is $750. The maximum of 10,000 mixed light would be $1,000, and the maximum indoor of 10,000 would be $2,000. The adult cultivator license, outdoor. So here they break down the outdoor versus the indoor versus the multi-tier. And again, it just is this kind of like inconsistency that we saw up above. Outdoor tier 1 is $1,000 plus $150 per 500 square foot. So if you have a 5,000 square foot facility, that would be another $1,500 on top of your $1,000 license fee. Outdoor tier 2 is $2,500 plus $250 per 500 square foot for a canopy greater than 5,000 square foot, but less than 1,250 or 12,050. So again, like we'd be crunching numbers here that like if you do a $10,000 license, like, you know, it's a substantial addition. The square footage cost went up by $100 and it goes up $100. Actually goes up $150 towards the end. So outdoor tier 3 is $6,250, which is almost 3x it's 2.5x the outdoor tier cost, and that's $350 a square foot for anything over 12,000 but less than 25,000. Outdoor tier 4 is definitely a solid 2.5x over the tier 3 at $500 per 500 square foot. So at 25,000, that would be, you know, what's that? 25 times, what is that number? Is it 500? What's 500 times 500? Is that 25,000?
If
It's substantial. So you got your $15,000 baseline, and then, yeah, you have at least a large number there on, oh, we got someone in the chat saying
Good point,
it's like
Jen. It is like SAT math. I screwed this up when I first was calculating it.
Yeah, I mean, let's simple math right here. So 25,000 divided by 500 is 50. So 50 times 500, you add another $25,000 onto your $15,000 license. So that becomes a $40,000 license fee right there.
Actually, I think the shortcut to the math is look at the next tier, and the number is the number of the previous tier.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Wow.
So you only have to do math on tier 5, maybe.
Yeah. So tier 5, yeah. So then again, it's $800, and like again, it can that's an incredibly costly license application there, and also it makes sense because the volume and the actual value of those licenses is very, very substantial. So just quick comparison: the mixed light tier 1 versus the outdoor tier 1. Mixed light jumps up $500, and then $190, is it, or no, $140. So the mixed light tier 1 is $1,500 plus $290 per 500 square foot. Tier 2 is $4,380 plus $440 per 500 square foot. Tier 3 is $10,940 plus $615 per 500 square foot. And then the tier 4 is $26,250 plus $875 per square foot. And then the tier 5 is $70,000 plus $1,400 per 500 square foot. So just quick math on that last one. It's like if you do 100,000, yeah, 210,000.
And that's every 2 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Substantial.
Full license fee, not just apps, and you have to pay the app fee again too.
Yeah. So then tier one, again, we jump up here. It's 1,750 plus 450 per 500 square foot. Tier two is 6,250 at 625 per 500. Tier three is 15,630 and 880 per 500. And then tier four is 37,500 at 1,250 per 500 square foot. And then lastly, but not least, is the tier five. It's 100,000 plus 200 or 2,000 per 500 square foot.
And that would be 300,000 if you're maxing it out at 100,000 square feet.
And so then this is the combination. Jason, could you take this over for a second?
Sure. Combination tier one is 1,250 plus 150 per 500 square feet. Combination tier two is 3,500 plus 235 per 500 square feet for canopy over 5,000 square feet. Tier three is 8,750 plus 375 per 500 square feet over 12,500. Tier four is 21,000 plus 585 per 500 square feet for canopy over 25,000 square feet. And tier five is 56,000 plus $860 per $500 for 500 square feet for cultivation over 50,000 square feet.
Now, has anyone seen a matrix of this built out? Again, I feel like it's just interesting to see the consistencies, the difference between indoor, outdoor, mixed, then combo. It's like, it just kind of seems all over the place. I just have this feeling like there's things that are, I don't know if the word's missing, but just to see how it all lines up. As we've seen, there's definitely been some errors elsewhere.
I have not, but that's probably something we should do. Frankly. All right. You want me to keep going on this? Okay. Adult use cooperative cultivation license. Tier one, 15 grand plus 25 cents per square foot of cultivation canopy up to 25,000 square feet. 20 grand plus 25 cents per square foot of cultivation canopy tier greater than 25, but less than 50. Tier three, 25,000 plus 25 cents per square foot between 50,000 and 100,000. Tier four, 30,000 plus 25 cents per square foot greater than 100,000 square feet. Cooperative mixed light tier is $20,000 plus 25 cents per square foot up to 25,000 square feet. Tier two, $25,000 plus 25 cents per square foot greater than 25,000 square feet, but less than 50,000. Tier three, 30,000 plus 50 cents per square foot of cultivation canopy greater than 50,000 square feet, but less than 100. Tier four, 35,000 plus 50 cents per square foot of cultivation canopy greater than 100,000 square feet. Cooperative indoor tier one, 30 grand plus 75 cents per square foot of cultivation canopy up to 25,000 square feet.
Now, how does this actually line up to the same square footage cost on a single license? Like side by side, is it more lucrative? Like, is it more valuable or affordable to be part of a cooperative, or is it better just to go on your own per se?
So if we did a tier one indoor, that's 30,000 plus 75. So if it's 25,000 times 75 cents plus 30,000 is 48,750. A regular indoor tier one is, well, we should really find what remember which 30,000 of indoor is, because that's the only way to really compare it. That would be you would be in a tier four indoor license, and a tier four indoor license would be, let's calculate that real quick. All right, tier four indoor would be 5,500. 50,000. So they're actually about the same price.
Interesting. So maybe slightly cheaper.
Very slightly. I mean, yeah, like less than $2,000 cheaper to do a cooperative.
Interesting. Cool. Well, thanks for doing that math there. I would argue that, you know, there's a lot of talk about pushing for cooperatives, and obviously there's value beyond the license fee, but just thinking of like, okay, it's not like lucrative in the upfront application or the value of your footage.
Tier 2, 35,000 plus $75 or 75 cents per square foot between 25 and 50,000 square feet. Tier 3, 50 grand plus 75 cents per square foot between 50 and 100. And tier, oh no, sorry, that's it. Right. So they don't have a tier 4 indoor. The combination tiers, 20,000 plus 25 cents per square foot of cultivation up to 25,000 square feet. Tier 2, 25,000 plus 25 cents per square foot between 25 and 50,000 square feet. Tier 3, 30,000 plus 25 cents per square foot of cultivation canopy between 50,000 and 100,000 square feet. And tier 4, 35,000 plus 25 cents per square foot greater than 100,000.
Cool. There's a question in the chat from Jill saying, I have an interest in either a nursery or micro business. I have a few questions. Why can't nurseries sell directly to consumers? Not all the best varieties are available as seeds, so how can nurseries and micro businesses attain legal clones from Massachusetts or Maine? And what is the sales tax rate on young clones sold to consumers via a micro business? The potency tax proposal can't possibly be factored in here, or can it?
So nurseries can't sell to consumers because it's right in the law. Like it's statutory. It would require a law change. So that's why they can't sell directly to consumers. Technically, the DEA said that everything that can't be measured with THC above 0.3% is hemp. So that would include seeds and clones. So you can actually do interstate commerce of seeds and clones as long as they're less than the amounts, but you still have to comply with the New York law. So, you know, a person without a license can't possess a hemp plant. So the question is, you know, if you don't have a hemp license and you're importing something from another state, but you have a THC license, can you do that? And I don't know, because you're calling it hemp, but then it's not hemp. So that's something that's kind of unclear. And then the sales tax, I'm not sure off top. I mean, it's at retail, there's the 13%. So they're going to pick you up there. And then I think that it is THC based. So if there's no THC, then it's 13%. If it's deemed, you know, cannabis. So those are all kind of yet to be determined. I mean, I don't think anybody, there has not been any THC tax collected because there have not been any sales to a retail dispensary, to my knowledge, at this point. And obviously there's no sales from one because they don't exist. So some of those questions are unknown at this point, and we don't really have a lot of guidance, and they haven't really kind of given a lot of insight into the tax portions of all this stuff yet. So
another interesting thing too is if like a nursery, as we look at what they can and can't do, can sell to, if I'm not mistaken, to a dispensary, but it doesn't say a dispensary can sell to a consumer per se. And so I'm confused. It allows for a transaction to happen, but it isn't clear that the dispensary could sell those as well.
I believe that's contemplated in some guidance somewhere I saw.
All right, cool. Any Elise or David, anyone have interest in taking the mic?
I lost my place where I can read. Are we starting at the adult use process?
Yep, you got it.
Cool. So section 4, adult use processor license. Adult use processor license, extraction, infusing, and blending, and packaging, labeling, and branding, $7,000 per processing premises. Adult use processor license, infusing and blending, packaging, labeling, and branding, $4,000 per. So I believe the difference between those two is you cannot extract in the second form of that license.
Yep.
But that's the only difference.
Yep.
Then type 3, adult use processor license, packaging, labeling, and branding, including for the exclusive performance of white labeling agreements, $2,000 per, provided, however, if applying as a tier 1 or tier 2 cultivator license of any cultivation type, the processor license shall be $500. So this is essentially a packaging and labeling license. And if you're a cultivator and you want to white label products for various agreements that you're entering into, that's a tag along license of $500. Section 6, cooperative processor licenses, $5,000 per processing premises. Adult use distributor license, $7,000 per. Cooperative distributor license, $3,500 per. Adult use retail dispensary license, $7,000. Adult use micro business license, $4,500. Adult use delivery license, $4,500. ROND licensing fee, that is a registered organization, non-dispensary. So everything but the retail dispensary for an RO. Cultivations, the fees associated with tier 5 indoor, outdoor, mixed light, or combination cultivation tier for which the ROND is licensed. Processing, $75,000. Distribution, $100,000. For the first year prior to conducting the first adult use cannabis sale by the licensee, a one-time initial license fee of $5 million. So this is a one-time special fee that tags along. This is known as being like a pretty gut-wrenching fee for the ROs. People can have their different political opinions on the subject, but it is a very large fee against the existing medical operators. For the first 5 years after the first adult use cannabis or cannabis product sale by the licensee, the lesser of 2% of all gross revenue generated by the licensee's New York State adult use cannabis operations, or $1 million. So first you get the one-time license fee of $5 million, and then you get the lesser of $1 million, or 2% of all gross revenue generated by the ROND. So at the very least, it seems like a $6 million fee on top of the standard licensing fee for an ROND. Moving on to an ROD. So this is a registered organization dispensary. This is a retail dispensary license for those medical operators trying to move to the retail or the recreational market. In addition to the license fees set forth in paragraph 12 of this section for ROND, the ROD shall pay a $100,000 per co-located retail dispensary and a one-time special license fee of $3 million per co-located adult use retail dispensary. So it looks like 3.1 mil to get that co-located retail dispensary for an RO.
And they can do that up to 3 times.
So that's pretty pricey. Gets close to $10 million in fees if they want to have 3 stores. Section C, reduced, waived, or deferred fees. An applicant may pay a reduced, waived, or deferred application and license fee as follows. If the applicant qualifies as a social and economic equity applicant as set forth in section 121.2, then a 50% reduction, waiver, or deferred fee, or any other supplemental reduction, waiver, or deferred fee as determined by the board for the purposes of providing financial assistance to an applicant who demonstrates sufficient need. So there's a solid opportunity for some applicants to get discounts on fees here, worth seeking legal counsel to see if you qualify. An applicant shall pay any fees for amendments or changes to an application as determined by the board. Upon application for license renewal, a licensee shall pay renewal fees equivalent to the fees paid for the initial license, or as otherwise determined by the board provided, however, an ROND shall only pay the license fee set out in Section 12, Romanet 4, upon initial licensure. So I believe that Section 12, Romanet 4, yeah, that's referring to that really large ROND one-time special licensing fee. So they only pay that the one time, and then they just pay their standard renewal fees after that. Section 120.5, filing of an application. No application for a license shall be deemed complete for filing with the office pursuant to this part until the following: all information conforming to all requirements related to format, signature, oath, or affirmation have been properly submitted, and all copies of documents provided as the office may require. All requested and required disclosures have been properly submitted. All required consents, waivers, fingerprint responses, and photographs have been properly submitted. All information, documentation, attestations, and assurances and other materials required have been submitted with the application, and all required fees have been paid. Make sure you have all your documents put together before the applications open up. Best advice ever. Section 120.6, processing of an application. Only completed applications may be processed. The processing of an application shall not constitute an acknowledgement that the requirements of the cannabis law in this chapter have been satisfied. Section 120.7, application eligibility and evaluation. So Section A, eligibility for adult use cannabis licenses. An applicant for an adult use cannabis license pursuant to Article 4 of the cannabis law shall satisfy the following minimum requirements to be eligible for a license. An applicant shall provide information in a form and manner as prescribed by the board, which shall demonstrate the eligibility for the license type being sought. And in order to apply for an ROND or ROD license, a registered organization shall be in good standing with the office and have 4 medical dispensing sites dispensing to patients, and submit the following: a community impact plan as described in Section 121.4, an energy and environmental plan as described in Section 125.1C, a medical patient prioritization plan, including the requirements set forth in Section 123.16, a co-location retail dispensary operating plan if an ROD, and any other information required by the office. And then going into evaluation of applicants. So this is kind of going away from the ROD stuff that was just talked about, a little bit more general. An applicant for an adult use cannabis license shall be evaluated in a manner determined by the board based on criteria to be set by the board at the time of opening the licensing window. So probably around the licensing window, and it's in New Jersey, it came out as a notice of application. New York might have a different format. It probably will have a different format, but around the licensing window, the application window, you'll probably get some evaluation criteria. The selection criteria detailed in Article 4, Section 64 of the cannabis law. The applicant's community impact plan as defined in Section 121.4, highlighting the applicant's proposed strategy for community engagement. The applicant's energy and environmental plan as defined in Section 125.1C, demonstrating planned compliance with standards and regulations and highlighting technologies, techniques, and strategies to protect the surrounding environment, limit carbon footprint, and leverage sustainable energy sources. The completion of any workforce or training programs offered by the office and completed by the applicant. The applicant's history in creating or maintaining an equitable workplace environment through the review of previous business and management practices, including but not limiting to wages, including but not limited to starting hourly rates for hourly workers, starting salary for salary workers, and annual wage percent increases in the last 3 years by classification of employee, showing the types of benefits that you've given to employees, including but not limited to number of hourly employees with 100% employer paid medical premiums, number of hourly employees receiving family single +1 coverage, number of hourly employees with employee co-contributions for medical coverage, or employer paid retirement benefits such as 401k match or direct contributions. So if you do have,
can we put 401 money, cannabis money in a 401k?
I'm not sure that, I don't know whether like a fund would actually custody that, because that could provide some federal problems for them. And then it's also just, it's going to be probably non-deductible. It might be for like a cultivator, but for like a retailer, that's definitely not going to be deductible. So I'm not sure.
We see these all the time though with MSOs.
What
They have
401ks?
401ks.
I mean, I think you probably have to work with somebody very specific, because it is, you know, dealing with federal securities law and things like that. So, you know, definitely have to talk to somebody who specializes in cannabis retirement accounts, I guess.
yeah.
So
It's a
what do you guys think about this? So are they asking for this for any other existing business that the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, so do you think they'll have to do it for every single business, or do you think that they do that for like one or two of their businesses and then they show?
So the section header says they want you to show the applicant's history in creating or maintaining an equitable workplace environment through the review of previous business and management practices. So really, they're looking for that evidence of, you know, creating a hospitable workplace.
Right, but it doesn't have to be all, right? We think probably it's like a sufficient basis.
Probably seems sufficient basis. It doesn't say that you have to give everything. So
Okay.
probably you're gonna, you know, if somebody has multiple businesses, they'd probably just want to show like your star,
Yeah, your
you know,
star guy. Mhm.
yeah, your star HR package. Wait, I've lost my place.
I think just under D, the 401k part 3 training, including.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, so employer paid retirement benefits such as 401k match or direct contributions, training, including but not limited to health and safety training, retention rates, diversity in hiring and promotion. Also, your history in creating or delivering culturally or linguistically competent services to diverse and underserved populations, including but not limited to training programs, multilingual services, published materials in circula, community outreach, administrative and organizational accommodations, and any other qualifications deemed necessary by the office. So it's interesting they said deemed necessary, but it seems like they really just want to see, and they're trying to, you know, they're definitely going to, you know, weigh favorably towards people who have created a really equitable workplace. So that's something to keep in mind if you do have a business.
I do want to just note, Jen is mentioned in the chat. So state-run retirement savings programs can possibly offer 401k plans to cannabis company employees. In California and Oregon, cannabis companies are not exempt from mandates requiring workers to provide an employer-sponsored plan or participate in a state-facilitated one. For example, at least 86 cannabis-related companies in California are participating in the Cal Savers program. In Oregon, at least 60 of these businesses are participating in the Oregon Saves program. She also says the federal tax credits and tax deductions are available to cannabis companies and organizations that adopt a 401k plan. Tax credits available to companies for starting a retirement plan are different from tax deductions available to companies for making company contributions and a retirement plan over time. Cool. Thank you so much, Jen.
Sorry. Okay. Section 7, serving in community leadership roles within established and licensed businesses, nonprofits, religious organizations, educational institutions, philanthropic organizations, community clubs, neighborhood associations, and any other qualifications deemed sufficient by the office. So this is like really key that if you're involved in your community in any way that, you know, you can put on paper, definitely start marking that down and putting together, a description of what you do within your community, because it'll definitely help your application. Section 8, supporting evidence that demonstrates the applicant's ability, capacity, and any initial steps taken to meet the board's standards for the plans in paragraphs 2 and 3 of this subdivision. So I'm just going to scroll back up to just double check. But this is the community impact plan and the energy and environmental plan. So it seems that they're going to weigh favorably if you get ahead of you get the ball rolling ahead of time, and you show that prior to applying, you've already engaged your community via, anything that you've been doing historically, or you're just preparing to do something and you're, making those inroads, or environmental plan, just showing that you're already thinking ahead and, with your application, maybe you propose something, showing that you've taken the initiative on environmental conservation with your proposed cannabis business. Section 9, the relative performance of applicants based on such criteria. So that's just the scoring metrics. Section 10, for applications from entities with 25 or more employees, the office shall give consideration to whether applicants have entered into an agreement with a statewide or local bona fide building and construction trades organization for construction work on its licensed facilities. So this is a labor peace agreement, in practical form, a labor peace agreement with a local union that handles construction work. And then from there, I think that's your labor peace agreement in terms of the employees as well on your site, but then you can also enter into one for your build out. I think
So is it saying that you have, I almost interpret 10 as like whether applicants have entered into an agreement with a statewide or local for building and construction for the work on their facility? Is it like, do you have choice not to, but it would be beneficial to hire a union-based construction firm? Got it.
Exactly. So if you have 25 or more employees, the office shall give consideration to whether you've done so or not. It'll definitely weigh favorably for you if you do that. It does say for applications from entities with 25 or more employees. So it's not clear if you enter into a labor peace agreement for your build out, but you have, let's say, 15 employees, whether it'll still weigh favorably. I couldn't imagine it wouldn't, but the way that this is worded makes it seem like it wouldn't weigh favorably. So something to keep in mind. And then, of course, any other information requested by the office, they always leave that disclaimer. Section C, selection. During the evaluation of an application, the office may use evaluation mechanisms, including but not limited to scoring, compliance, qualified lotteries, and a randomized selection process or any combination thereof. Most likely, we're going to see a rubric-based application process and licensing process, but they're reserving the right to do whatever they want. So anything's possible. The board will determine the eligibility criteria for each license type. The board may prioritize application submission, review, selection, and issuance by including but not limited to region, license type, and social and economic equity status. Section 3, application submission, review, selection, and issuance may be prioritized by groupings consistent with Section 87 of the Cannabis Law, such as a group consisting only of applications that demonstrate the applicant is eligible for extra priority as defined in Section 121.2 of this chapter, provided the applicant is seeking to qualify as a social and economic equity licensee and is a member of a community disproportionately impacted by the enforcement of cannabis prohibition, has an income lower than 80% of the median income of the county in which the applicant resides, and was convicted of a marijuana-related offense prior to the effective date of the act, or had a parent, guardian, child, spouse, or dependent, or was a dependent of an individual who, prior to the effective date of the act, was convicted of a marijuana-related offense. A group consisting of only applications that meet the definition of distressed farmer as described in paragraph 3 of subdivision H of section 121.1 of this chapter. A group consisting of only applications that meet the definition of service disabled veteran as described in subdivision I of section 121.1 of this chapter. A group consisting only of applications that demonstrate the applicant is from a community disproportionately impacted by the enforcement of cannabis prohibition as described by subdivision D of section 121.1. And a group consisting of all other applications not included in the categories in subparagraphs Romanet 1 through Romanet 4 of this paragraph. So just to go back through that, because that was a huge mouthful.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that two really big groups are missing from this section, which was in the MRTA law, which is women and minority businesses. That's a big removal for those who have been obviously suspecting that they would be in a priority or social equity license analysis when submitting.
And that's, as we've had in discussions, that's based off the issue of like racial and gender profiling or prioritization as being illegal.
Yeah, so it's my understanding, I think OCM is worried that it will violate constitutional law. On the flip of that, I think they have to worry about violating their own law by not including it, given that it had passed with the MRTA as a specific group outlined in that law.
But there is another section, and I think it's in the social equity section that does say that they will give priority, because this is the extra priority section. This is the people who fall under those categories, but general priority is given to distressed farmers, service disabled veterans, and then they have a catch-all of anybody we didn't mention that falls under section 87 of the MRTA. So they gave themselves the room to do it, but whether they exercise that discretion, we'll see because of the constitutionality.
Yep. All right. So we got just a couple more minutes. I just wanted to let David, let's have you were just going to do a little quick summary here. If there's anything else you'd like to add to that. Otherwise, I think we'll begin to transition out of our flow here.
So just to be as clear as possible, all those groups, that's just I'm going to scroll up one more time, but this is just a prioritization based on certain group types and definitions. So just to clarify what all those groups meant within the context of the regs. Those are priority groupings for application evaluation.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, but not to be confused, social equity applicants were supposed to be prioritized, the ones in the law. So, and these ones had, I mean, these ones, I mean, they do have a catch-all, but they were omitted. It's a very big omission from the MRTA.
100. I was just clarifying what the function is for, just because it started to get a little bit, when I was reading it, I felt like it was, I was reading a lot of groups.
Confusing. Yeah, for sure.
Make sure everybody understands what, I was reading. Awesome. I have to jump, everyone, but thank you. This was a great time. Thank you.
Jack, you're on mute.
Cool. Yeah, thank you, David. I think we're off next week, if I'm not mistaken, but we'll pick back up the following week. And so it's Tuesday, Thursday, noon till 1:15 p.m. We'll pick up on page 75 next week. And yeah, so folks who are watching this recording, thank you so much for your time. Everyone who's live, we appreciate it. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye, guys.